All right, so this is just the session I had against LeBron James. Heads up. This is a graph of it. Doesn't really say much. Could have easily just been run bad. So I'm just gonna go look through the hands. Uh, First thing you realize is that every hand I won was either me not showing the hand, aka he folded and I had value, or it was a hand like this, which was this hand is probably the only hand that like could mean he's not super using. But even then, it's kind of like I called and then I donked him to turn. If he folded ace here, he would be really suspicious of him. For whatever 1/10 pot. So that's the only hand where I bet for value and got called. And this is he has to call aces anyways. So yeah, I just donk bet whatever. But aside from that, I didn't get value from any hands. Like this hand, like I either had a value hand and I bet and he folded, or he bet and I called and won. Like this hand, he 3-bet, check on flop, and he bet turn, and he potted the river with trips because assumedly he knows that I have like a small flush and he's trying to fold me off a small flush because he has trips. And when he if he checks, he would never win the hand. I mean, in itself, it could just be he's really bad at the game, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it does support that he does have access to my whole cards. And then every other hand is just me betting for value and him folding. Any hand that went to showdown that I did win was him bluffing into me, like this hand. I check out flop, and oh well. I guess he assumed he had, I don't know. Flop, I guess he bet because he was trying to keep it discreet. And then on the river, he must have had like a hand that he must have known that I wasn't folding like a hand like this, so he didn't try to bluff me off of it. Again, here he's trying to beat the screen on the flop, and then just doesn't bet because he has access to my whole cards and knows that I'm never gonna be folding here. Like in none of these hands do I actually bet for value and get called by worse. I mean, this hand we just went all in for 3 big blinds pre-flop, but then all of these hands where I had value bets, he would just fold over and over again in all of them. And yeah, so these are all the hands that I did play. This one was, again, I didn't get value in this hand either. So like after playing a 144 hand session, it's really suspicious that like I didn't ever bet for value and get called in 144 hands. I mean, that's just super unlikely in general. But then on the flip side, every time I had a bluff, like this hand, um, I mean, obviously he just trapped me on the flop and turn, but like sure, like it could be a good play, but it also could mean that he knows what my whole cards is and just wants me to bluff off into him because he has, you know, that hand. And so okay, so on one hand, I didn't get value from like 144 hands. I didn't ever bet the river and get value. And on the other side, when I ever had a bluff on the river, I would either get called or get raised. Like this is a bluff, right? And I would get raised. And all the hands I did win, none of these hands that I bet on the river were ever bluffs. These were all value bets on the river. And they were all value bets on the river that got and when I did value bet on the river, he folded. And all the hands I did win were something weird. This hand was weird. And this hand was not so weird, but still. So for the hands I did win and I had a value bet, he would never call. I didn't bet for value on the river and get called once. I'm repeating myself now, sorry. And on the other side, every time I bet the river for a bluff, I would get called or I would get raised jammed on. Like this hand. I'd bet, and he would jam river. This hand, bet, get jammed on. This hand, or get jammed on or get called. Or just get trapped, basically. This hand, he donk bets, and it just has an absurdly weird hand. Just donk bets the turn and river. Wait, let me replay this hand. So I bet the flop with top pair and a gutter. He donk bets 3/4 with a 9 high flush on the turn. Super weird. And then donk bets whatever weird sizing with a 9 high flush on the river. Or just donk jams with like a 1/3 size bet. I mean, like, it's not a terrible play, but like after like looking through all the hands, it just makes sense that he knows exactly what I have here. If I ever bluff, I would just always like I check raise top pair with the flush draw blocker and a gutter. I would check raise. Every time I bluffed, he would just raise or call. And he would just 3-bet me here and I folded. Every time I bluffed, he would always call me with some weird hand, like trip kings. Like if he's a superstation, that would make sense, but I value bet him like over 15 times, and he would fold every time. Every time I bet for a bluff, he would always raise me. He would always raise or call me. I did not bluff once on the river and get a fold. And on the contrary side, I never bet once for value and get a call. I mean, like, if it happens like 2 or 3 times, it could just be like flip variance or whatever. But if it happens like over like 30 of these hands, like are just me betting for value and like betting as a bluff on the river and then him just raising me or calling. Again, me betting as a bluff on the river. He just has the nuts and just calls. I have a bluff, and then he donk bets into me. So I didn't get a bluff through here either. I just fold. I mean, that donk bet is so weird. He donk bets the turn, donk bets the river, like, and he just knows I can't call because I have a third pair. I don't know what he had, but if you flip over his cards and he didn't have like, and he had like a pair of fives or something, it would just be pretty obvious that he's super using. I mean, this hand was just whatever. We're so short. We were pretty much all in. And then I mean, this hand he went for value. I called. Basically, basically, I every time I bluffed, he would raise or call. Every time I had value, he would fold. I mean, this hand was pretty just whatever. We were super short. I misclicked here, and he would just always get value from me. I mean, each individual hand doesn't prove anything, but in the grand scheme of things, if it happens over and over again, and all these hands are just him betting into me when I had nothing and folding because he knew I had nothing. He would just keep betting. I'm just gonna go through all of them. I mean, these don't mean much in itself. I just didn't hit a flop and I folded. You know, it's all the same thing, really. And then me bluffing, and then him calling me. Just him just donk betting flop and turn. But like, okay, so I'm not gonna go through the rest of these hands I lost because they're all the same thing. Me not hitting something and he would donk bet or pot or do whatever. And then on the flip side, for the hands I did win, which were the hands I had value, he would never donk bet like this hand. I donk bet the river, he would just fold. And like the guy's been hero calling me like insanely wide. Like when I had a bluff, that is, or just raising me when I had a bluff. But every time I had value, like especially on the river, he would just fold. Like, it would make sense if he had, like, some, like, 6-5-4 in a turn or something that he calls and, you know, even if he knows I have a straight, he saws the odds to call 6-5-4 or fives or four. I mean, or a hand like 6-5-4 with the hearts or something. 6-5 with the heart. But every time I had value on the river, he would just fold. Like, very consistently. Check raise flop as a bluff with 8-8, and then river the 8, and then pot for value. He would fold. Fold every time I had value, like consistently without like doubt. He would always fold when I had a value hand. And like, sure, like this isn't super. It's really weird already, but like, you mix the fact that every time I had a value bet, he would like snap fold. Never got value in 144 hands. Never got value. And on the other side, every time I bluffed, like 15 consecutive bluffs got like raised or called. 15 consecutive bluffs got raised or called, and 15 consecutive value bets got folded. It's just pretty clear that he knows exactly what I have every hand. Like this hand, I didn't even get value. It's just he knew I wasn't folding the river, so he didn't bluff me. And this one hand I did win with the 9-7-6-4 was he knew exactly what I had, which was a small flush, and he was trying to make me fold. And he had trips. He had one better hand, was trying to make me fold. It's just super weird. Like, I mean, I know that he's super using me because he pretty much told me in ACR chat when he mentioned his Discord name. But yeah. But yeah, all these hands are me having value. Like without doubt, each one of them is two. I have two pair or strips or a straight, and he would consistently just fold over and over again every time I had a value bet. Or just like a top pair, he would just fold. Maybe try not to look super suspicious, but this is already very suspicious. And you know, I would have a boat. I would bet he would fold. I would have top two. I would bet he would fold. And then I would have top pair. I would bet he would fold just over and over again. And on the other side, every time I had a bluffed, he would call or raise. Like in none of these hands did I bet with a bluff and get through. None of these hands. Like actually zero. I got zero bluffs through, which is actually impossible. Like you can't. I got zero bluffs through, zero value bets called, and every time I bluffed, I would get raised or called. I mean, at that point, I think that's enough evidence for me to say that he had access to my hull cards. Obviously, this would be a lot easier if I could see what he had in all these hands, because that would make it even clearer. Because if he would like do all these weird plays with a weird hand, or if I value bet with like trips and like he folded a bunch of weird stuff, that would also make sense. But I think that's enough evidence for now. This is just all the hands from the session I had against him. Oh, this isn't all of them actually. We played 144 hands. I had it filtered for 100 hands. There's a few more hands, but just very consistent pattern. Every time I had in all the hands I won, none of these were me value betting and getting called. All of them was him folding. I would have a value hand and he would fold. Boat, he would fold. None of these hands did I get called. And this hand wasn't even me value betting getting called. It was just him bluffing into me, trying to get me to fold on the turn. I guess he bluffed into me on the turn, thinking I might fold. Like gonna bluff the river, and then he realized I probably wasn't folding river at that point, so he decided not to bluff. But none of these hands were me getting value. Zero hands here are me betting for value and getting called by worse. Not a single one. On the other side, every time I had a bluff, like this hand when I bluffed, he would raise. This hand I bluffed, he raised. This hand I bluffed, he called. This hand, he donk bet the turn with a small flush, donk bet the river with a small flush. This hand, I would raise and he would jam. He would basically not let me bluff. I'd bet river, he would raise with a bluff. I'd bet river, he'd call with a bluff, and then he would just always call when I have a bluff. This hand, I bet the river, and he called. I had a bluff, and he would just have a hand. But like, And this hand, he just donk bet the turn and river. So like over like 30 hands when I had value, he folded 100% of the time when I bet with value. And when I had a bluff, he would raise 100% of the time. He would donk bet into me, or he would raise my bluff, or he would just call my bluff. But yeah, I'm gonna upload this to YouTube, and I'll just make it a private like link so I can send it to you guys. But it would be it would be nice if you guys could look through his hands, or even just look through his whole cards. It would be super apparent once you do that. Thanks for listening to me ramble. All right, bye.